Good evening, friends. It is week 3 in the NFL, and that means it's week 3 in the Maslin Fantasy League as well, because common sense, that's just how fantasy football works. What a terrible intro. I'm Ryan, part-time ninjas. He's Dan, dancing squirrels, and our first guest of the 2023 season. He's in first place right now. I said last week I need to put some respect on his name. Now he's here to make sure he gets that respect. Darin, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Darin, we have some people new to the league who don't know any of us by any of us. So, what is your team name?
I'm hurt so good. Mainly because I've got Jalen Hurts. So I mean that's my team name.
Yeah, and he's carrying you. Like I said, me and Darin were talking before the show, and I don't know how I didn't put him in the playoffs at the beginning of the season with his keepers. Darin even mentioned that I was loving his keepers in the pre-draft episodes, and then I just crushed his team after the draft. Dan, it's been an eventful night for you already. Halftime shows and all that. How bad is Maslin winning right now?
I don't even know, man. It was like 20-7 when we left in the third quarter. I heard a lot of fireworks since then, so I'm guessing probably 42-7, somewhere in that range.
Boys are killing it this year. How are you doing, buddy?
I am tired. It's been a day.
Yeah, Dan, it's been a rough couple of Fridays for you. You've been very, very eventful Friday nights. We either need to push this thing back or start picking Saturdays, I think. So
possibly. We'll see. It's hockey season, man. It's busy every night.
Our buddy Lee in the chat, Drifter. Buddy, I have your email. I forgot to email you. I was thinking about it today, and I literally just said to these guys before we went live that I need to get an email out to you to get you on the show. We are going to have you on the show this year. So we're going to figure you out. Getting you on the show, getting you in the league's a whole other thing. I know that's what you're talking about. So
you still have my vote, man. You're the next guy in if you ask me.
There you go.
My kid wants to start playing with us. I told him no. Lee is above him.
I would agree. I don't understand where this old Rob guy came in or new Rob guy came in. How did
we don't understand where old Rob came from either?
yeah, that's true.
My goodness. Now we're just throwing current league mates under the bus. Let's get into some trades. After a quiet 2 weeks with no trades, I got the trade market kicked back off. Elijah Mitchell, Tank Dell, and 2 late picks come to me. I send Devon Chain, Tajay Spears, a 10 and 11 to Rob. Pretty quickly after that, Taylor pulled off another extremely weird trade. He brings Justin Fields back to his team along with Kyron Williams and a 4th round pick, sending out Jalen Waddle, Kyle Pitts, and a 6th, basically just undoing everything he did for Justin Jefferson. Terry, much to Darin's surprise, makes his first trade in years, sends a 10th to bring in Josh Kelly to back up Austin Eckler. And then Rob continues his build of the Jacksonville Jaguars, bringing in Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, 3 6th-round picks, the Devils picks, sending Jamison Williams, Devon Shane, and a 4th and a 7 to Kenny's team. Sorry, losing my mind. I have something in my eye that's been bugging me for an hour, and it's just going to drive me absolutely nuts. Yeah, my finger, exactly. So out of those trades, guys, I think I went out and got backups. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that trade, but that was just me getting my handcuffs for now. Terry's trade makes a ton of sense. Rob's trade is weird because he's just buying completely in on the Jaguars, which I guess he did when he chose to keep Trevor Lawrence over Josh Allen. Taylor's trade, again, I don't understand it. I liked what he did for Justin Jefferson. I know he's in the chat right now. I liked what he did for Justin Jefferson, getting Jalen Waddle and what he got back. Now you don't even have an elite wide receiver, and I'm just starting to get a little worried about these trades. Taylor might be doing a little bit too much tinkering right now. What do you think, Dan?
I couldn't disagree with you more. I think what Taylor did was highway robbery. To get Fields, if Fields gets hot, I think Williams looks like a stud. Waddle has not impressed. Pitts has been a bum, and he gets the highest draft pick in the trade. I think it's an absolute steal for Taylor.
I don't think you and I have agreed on a Taylor trade yet this offseason. You like it when I hate it. I hate it when you like it. Darin, what are your thoughts
it's like we have
on bringing Justin Fields back in while you already have Tua Tagovailoa?
I think it's terrible. I think he loses out on. I mean, there's more talent he could have brought in. Your 2 quarterbacks, it's not going to help you. Now Tua gets hurt. Different story. But I don't see Justin Fields' ceiling going any higher than where it's at right now. I mean, everybody sees the TikToks of the last couple of days of what he's missing, little easy snippets of what he's missing in these short or long shots. I don't know. Terrible move.
Yeah,
Very questionable.
Fields as a thrower is a certain problem. Fields as a runner, when they allow him to do it, is something. Dan, what do you buy into Justin Fields throwing his offensive coordinator under the bus this week going into Kansas City?
Number one, they hugged it out. I don't even want to hear about it. That's fine. Guys are going to disagree when you're struggling. It's going to happen. 2, what team had Justin Fields last year, week 2? That's right. He was on no team. He wasn't on any team until Taylor picked him up after he started getting hot week 4 or 5 when they made changes. So I think it's the same thing. They're going to make some changes. They're going to get the offense going. I care less about Justin Fields. He has Tua. I think it's just insurance in case Tua gets hurt. He got the best player in my opinion. Are you guys still there?
Okay, I say, Dan, we're losing you. Darren, are you losing Dan as well? I'm just making sure it's not me. Okay.
Choppy.
Yeah, Dan, your internet is about to just go out completely at this point. It looks like your camera's getting way. Oh, I don't know. It's clearing back up now. But yeah, I don't think he got the best player. I mean, he might got the best player for this season, but I think Jalen Waddle is just heads and tails ahead of Kyren Williams. Like I'm not a fan of that trade in the least bit. That's just kind of where I stand. Before we get into week 2 or week 3, I like to take a look back at week 2, and I call it, just 3 things we took away from week 2. I'm going to bring up the first thing because I found it pretty interesting. Every team in the league scored 90 points last week, which is pretty impressive. I went back and looked. The league average for 2022 was 104 points per team. But we always have those up weeks and those down weeks, and nobody was down last week. I thought that was pretty interesting, Darren.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's to see consistency is
to see lineups set by everybody.
yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
But Darren, did you have any takeaways from last week?
You had mentioned Kyren Williams. I don't. Is he real? 2 weeks. I mean, he's shown 2 weeks, and they traded away Cam Akers. Is he real? I don't know. He's been there for 3 years and he hasn't shown anything. I don't know. It's an odd thing. That was one of my notes that I had on there.
So he's 5'9", 194. He's built like a passing down back, Dan. I'm going to let you take that question, Dan, before you get into your week 2, because you seem really bought in on Kyren Williams. Is he real?
He is definitely real. I think the fact that they traded Akers shows he's real. I think the Rams are going to surprise some people this year, including me. I didn't see this coming from them. I think it's going to be a good fit. I mean, you have to looking at their receiving weapons, the way they're just dominating. They're not going to be able to load the box on him. He's going to get opportunities. Their offense looks like it's good. Stafford looks good. Now, if something happens to Stafford, obviously that can change things, but he looks real to me.
He's on pace for 34 touchdowns, and I think we can all agree that's not happening. So I
disagree.
I think mark that down.
Absolutely.
That's what, if you're trading Jalen Waddle for him, that's what you think is happening. Dan, what's your takeaway from week 2?
Number one, you said Taylor's in the chat. Taylor's got to be saying something. He ain't gonna just take all this slander against his trade and not say something.
Oh, he's actually been really cool with it. So Taylor has pointed out that he thanks you for enjoying his trades.
I got your back, man.
He basically said if Tua dies, that's what he has Justin Fields for. And he concurs. They traded Cam Akers. He's real. So Taylor's actually been
on the same page.
Yeah. And I'll throw Drifter up on the screen. Drifter said, he kills Alexander Madison's value. If you've watched if you've watched the last 2 episodes, Drifter, you know that I think Alexander Madison had 0 fucking value. So I don't think he killed anything because he's a trash player. So.
I will never call any NFL player a trash player. That's just disrespectful. My takeaways from last week. I enjoyed Monday night. The defenses bringing old Rob back to beat new Rob on Monday night was pretty cool. TJ Watt continues to dominate. Yeah,
that had to be a thorn in Motz's side to win because of the Steelers. So.
He doesn't care anymore. He's given up on the Browns because of that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then my other takeaway is it kind of doesn't necessarily about week 2, but kind of after week 2, we've gotten into everybody just sends random trade offers now. I can go ahead and put it out there that I'm not trading Puka for a 4 to the multiple people that sent me that same trade offer. I don't know if this was a group text of everybody sending me Puka for a 4 trade offers, but it's not happening.
The Puka and Kyron Williams trades that I heard on my Wednesday show were insane. Someone got Jamar Chase for Kyron Williams or for Puka. Someone got Jalen Waddle straight up for Puka, and people are trying to sell high, and a 4 ain't high. We'll go ahead and put that out there. I have a couple of more takeaways from week 2 rather. Elite quarterbacks are not looking very elite right now. 13 quarterbacks scored 20 plus fantasy points in our league scoring last week, and the number 1 quarterback was only at 31 points. Everybody seems to have an elite quarterback right now, certainly not playing out very well. And Metzger, you might have the greatest PPR wide receiving corps in the history of fucking football, because you have problems at who to start at wide receiver right now because you picked Puka up to break my heart, and it's just worked out so well for you.
Oh, I love every second of it, and I know it eats at you. Who was it that?
It's
that
Taylor.
chimed in?
Taylor texted me last week and was like, "You need to start trusting your gut, man." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't need you to remind me that I should not have let Puka go. It's all Travis Kelce's fault. It is all Travis Kelce's fault. If he doesn't get hurt, I don't drop Puka from Luke Musgrave. Plain and simple."
So I think we're
going to hear that forever.
To make up for this, you should just trade me Kelce for Puka.
I think that's a deal.
Taylor calling you out that he offered you a 2 for Puka. I do want to go back
to
Lee.
After I declined his 4, let's just be honest.
I'm going to go back to Lee, let him talk about his league a little bit. Running backs in a 12-man league: Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Rashad White. Obviously a little bit of a rough season for Josh Jacobs so far, but I think he bounces back this week. And his wide receivers are Kupp, Waddle, Chase, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, and Traylon Burks. So in a 12-man league, that's a hell of a team, which just goes to show you would probably make some noise in our league. And Taylor defending his trade once again. Nico Collins has played better than Jalen Waddle both weeks. So, when a guy has 2 bad weeks, he's just not a good player anymore, according to Dan and Taylor. I guess that's just where we stand at this point.
Let's point out on this Waddle love. Darin, who's your favorite team?
What do you know? The Miami Dolphins.
What a coincidence.
Are they my favorite team? I think Waddle is a top 10 receiver in the NFL.
Whoa.
He got hurt last week.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We need to make a bet out of this or something. Like I need to.
Yes, we will come up with a bet by next week. Our buddy Rob P joins the chat just seconds after Dan flamed his team for getting beat by the Pittsburgh Steelers defense on Monday night. So,
well, the Browns are terrible. I'll say that all day.
Yeah.
Watson's a joke.
I didn't mean his team, the Browns. I meant his fantasy team, how he lost.
No, he's just throwing flames all over the place.
Really hurt him. Not only did he lose his fantasy, he lost the – oh, man.
Do we know he's a Browns fan? I don't know.
I do.
Okay, perfect.
Phil's told me that he's a huge Browns fan. Half the reason that Phil traded Deshaun Watson in the offseason was he thought he could trade it to New Rob in a steal because of how big of a Browns fan he was. So then instead, Phil just kept him, and now look where he's at.
Yeah, things are looking weird. All right, so last week I went 3-4 on my picks. I'm 7-7 on the season. Darin, you have been making picks. You said you're 6-8 on the season. Do you remember what you went last week?
Last week I was 3-4 last week.
Okay, and Dan?
I have no idea. No.
Yeah, I'd say you never track this, and you don't have time for that.
I actually tried to track it. It's just I have zero time.
I will change my show notes moving forward so that I can add your picks in as well, so I can track them for you.
If you want to pause the show for like 3 minutes, I can go find my notebook and look who I picked and do all that. But
we're good. This is the least important part of today's show. All right, guys, I have ranked these by what I feel is importance for getting wins for the season, getting into the playoffs. It's only week 3, but this is also the first episode where we're going to name our 6 playoff teams. So the first matchup, I think, relatively inconsequential. Eric has already stolen a win this season, but I'm going to say JR with 2 wins, Eric with 1 win going in. I have picked JR. Dan, who do you have? And go ahead and talk about the matchup first.
I expect JR to win as well. Although I will say that's it. Oh, man. I wish we knew if Burrow's going to play. That's really going to determine a lot for me. So who does he have as a backup quarterback? He does not have one.
Cheerio right now.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to say I don't expect Burrow to play, and I'm going to go Eric. I'm switching it up.
So Dan switches over to Eric mid sentence because of Joe Burrow not playing.
I mean, that affects Jamar Chase as well, too.
Dan, you're just taking my notes right now. Literally in exact words, it affects Jamar Chase too. Darin, who do you got winning this game?
I have JR winning this game pretty easily. It's a close game, but I think on paper it looks close well. But I think it's if Burrow doesn't play, then Eric wins. But I got to take JR for sure because we don't know anything with Burrow right now.
The consequences of Burrow not playing are so interwoven into this game. It's crazy. I'll let you keep going, Darin, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Just a fun note. If Burrow does play, both of their quarterbacks go head to head on Monday Night Football. And also to note, Eric has Luke Wilson going against his quarterback in the same game. So it's kind of a funny, I don't know. I was just looking at this stuff, but yeah, I didn't really look at the fact that Burrow was not maybe going to play. So I had JR the whole way on this one. But yeah, that's kind of what I had on it.
So I had the pulse that I thought Burrow would play, but hearing from Dan, he doesn't think. Dan is more tied into this than I am. But the interweaving of this game, if Burrow doesn't play, it makes Stafford a better play because they're likely to win the game pretty handily with Jake Browning at quarterback. They're also likely to run the ball more, which gives Joe Mixon more carries also on Eric's team. It hurts JR's best wide receiver. However, JR is deep at wide receiver. Oh, no, Brandon Ayuk was out this week. So JR is not as deep at wide receiver as he would like to be this week. So JR loses his wide receiver. But right now, Eric has Tyler Boyd going in his flex, which I don't enjoy at all, especially if Burrow doesn't play this game. So what a weird game. I have also picked JR to win. I agree with Darin on this one, that I have JR winning this matchup. But there is so much that could go wrong with one player not playing in this game, and it's a bad week for the San Francisco defense to be kind of mediocre for JR. Like, he could have really used 20, 30 points out of him on that one. So.
Yeah. I'll say this real quick to close on this is, well, two things. So Burrow, he had a weird interaction with the Bengals owner at practice today. Like, he got in his cart. Like, the Bengals owner sits in a golf cart and watches every practice. That's what he does. He was on the golf cart, and it did not look like it was a pleasant conversation. And I think it was more about, hey, we want you to sit and rest and be ready to go. And Burrow did not look happy.
I was going to say, because I heard there was an interview where Burrow said that 0-2 was weighing on his mind about not playing in this game. So,
Burrow, I'm sure, is a competitor and wants to play, but you got to do what's best long term. The Bengals defense has not looked great so far this season. And I think that's another reason going in Eric's side is you have those receivers going against a defense that's maybe struggled a little bit. Stafford could have a really big game, especially if Burrow and Chase don't. I think I think you guys are making a mistake on this. Might want to rethink it before we end this segment. Move on.
I'll stick with my guns. I'm already doing terrible this season. Next matchup, again, Darin, first place in the league right now. And Greg, I think, is starting to make a little bit of a playoff push, but I don't think this game has a lot of consequence. So I put Darin and Greg first. Darin, I'm going to have you go last on this one. I'll go first. And Darin, I hate to say it to your face, but when I did my little game that I do to choose the matchups, I think I have Greg winning this matchup. I have it as what I think might be the closest matchup I remember picking in a very long time. You guys are super close at every position. I like every matchup that you guys have in this game. I don't know what DeAndre Swift is. If DeAndre Swift is DeAndre Swift from last week, you're probably going to win. But I really like Tony Pollard, and I'm giving just the slight edge to Tony Pollard over DeAndre Swift. He got the big week out of Deebo Samuel already. But you guys literally, defense, great matchups. Kickers, great matchups. IDPs, great matchups. Like, everything has really worked out where nobody's bad. Like, I would have felt a lot better for your team if Brock Purdy didn't throw that touchdown to Deebo Samuel at the end and getting him, 13 extra points in the last 5 minutes of that game. Dan, what do you got on this one?
Here's the thing. Looking at what San Francisco did last night for Greg, I really kind of feel like he has a good start to the week. But Darin's team has just been lights out, and I can't go against Darin's team. I think I'm going to take him for the win this week.
Okay. Darin?
I kind of the same with what you said, Ryan. I think that this matchup is about as close as it gets.
Nuts. I've never had it
analysis wise, paper wise, look, I mean, it just, it's my team, so I'm going to give myself the edge. But I know I shouldn't do that, but I'm going to. Tyreek didn't do anything last week, and I still got a dub. I think that he's going to bounce back against Denver. I don't see him having any issues. And if Waddle doesn't play, I don't know, that's kind of some question marks there. I think that Purdy and Samuel did exactly what we thought they were going to do against the Giants. Their rankings, their average or what they're projected was really low. But I think that basically it comes down to the wide receivers, the wide receiver twos and the tight ends and the flex. It's a toss up. I've picked them wrong both weeks. The first week I didn't have Mostert in there, and then the second week I took out Christian Kirk, and he sat with 20 points on my bench. So it's gone against me both times. I lucked out and got the win. So I'll probably pick it again wrong. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't hurt me. But I got myself.
I was say I like that you are out here talking about your bad picks when you're sitting 2-0. Like that's the way you fantasy manage yourself into the playoffs. So.
Yeah.
No, I really like that. The one thing I'll point out is the Broncos are giving up the 9th most points to wide receivers. They have not looked good. Tyreek Hill could win this matchup single-handedly. Darin has it 2,000 yards. It might be 2,000 yards in this game. I'm still going to stick with my pick, but yeah, I find it interesting that you were high on Purdy and Samuel. I thought Samuel would be okay. I just didn't know what to expect out of Purdy on that Thursday night game, but he certainly put in the work there. So
I don't think anybody knows what he's going to do. I really think that he's very consistent at being, and mediocre is a bad word, but I think he's very consistent at controlling games, and he gets it done.
It's so funny to call him mediocre because he's never lost in a regular season game.
I know.
Yeah. But I guess it's easy when you have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and a great defense backing you up too. So, Dan, I have you as the next matchup, and I still don't know that I put much consequence into this one. It's way more important for Rob than it is for you. Dan, I'll have you go last. Darin, I'll let you lead us off with this one.
Oh, leave me off here. All right. So I actually have Dan winning this one. I think Dan's going to run away with this one pretty handily. Looking at both teams here, unless somehow Rob gets T-Law to just explode for like 50 something, which would help him all over the place because he's got every single player that plays for Jacksonville. I don't see Rob getting anything in this at all. That's the only one that I think really is going to Rob. Dan, your quarterback is not the best.
Whoa. No disrespect, Jordan Love.
I was saying QB3 on the season right now.
Yeah. I don't know. He hasn't proven anything to me yet. It's 2 weeks in. I don't know. I'm probably very wrong, but it's just one of those things. But yeah, I think Dan runs away with this one.
I also have Dan winning. I would call it a runaway as well, and I actually agree. I love what Jordan Love is doing right now, but the Saints are a much tougher defense. So I have Rob's only edge being Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, but I think Dan wins every other position. ETN and Javonte Williams is close, but I think this could be a big week. Miami's rush defense has not been that great. We could see a lot of points out of Javonte Williams this week, Dan. So I am picking you.
I think Rob actually gets the win. Having the whole Jaguars team going against Houston, I think. I mean,
we're making a lot out of that, though. His only other person is Zay Jones, and he's out this week.
But just having Trevor Lawrence and ETN, by themselves going against Houston.
He should get every touchdown.
He should, Devonta Smith going against Tampa Bay's defense worries me. Atwell against the Bengals defense. I think Rob's going to do well this week. I'm going to take the first loss here. I agree. I don't like my quarterback matchups. I mean, I was either, Daniel Jones last night against the 49ers, which I was absolutely not doing, or Love against the Saints. You got to take the chances with Love against the Saints. But again, I think Rob ends up pulling out the win. So congratulations, Robert Montz.
There you go. Perfect segue from Lee. I'm going to get his question up here. I think he says he's going to need. Oh, he stepped away already, and now he's back. He said he'd love to know what Josh Kelly's going to do this week. Could get 4 points, could get 40 points. I'm going to talk about Terry's matchup next. But Dan, do you have any thoughts on Josh Kelly taking on the Minnesota Vikings in what should be a high-scoring game?
Yeah, Minnesota's looked terrible, so he could have potential to have a good game, but I expected more of him last week and didn't see it. So another league I have. I had Kelly picked up, and I'm benching him. I'm not even putting him in there this week. I'll find someone. I just don't trust him.
Yeah, Terry doesn't have much choice but to play Josh Kelly this week. Darin, what do you think about that matchup?
I think the same. It's I think it's tough to play him. You don't really know. There's a lot of question marks there. But it's for that matchup. I think without Eckler, it's going to make it closer. But I think Terry still probably gets the win.
Oh, I wasn't even going to get into that yet. But no, that's great. Okay.
Okay.
No, I just meant the matchup for Josh Kelly. But no, please keep going there. Go ahead. So Terry versus Kenny. Terry sitting at 1 win right now. Kenny with no wins right now. So Kenny needs a win here.
I think Terry gets the dub here. If it wasn't for Eckler being out, I think Terry could probably win this matchup with just his running backs and nobody else. They're just tough. But now Eckler's gone, so it kind of makes it a little bit more of a closer matchup. But I still think Terry gets away with it.
Dan, I'm going to let you talk next, but I did want to point out, I don't know if you guys saw the 2 flex positions for these 2 teams. Chuba Hubbard versus Quentin Johnston might be the worst flex battle maybe in 3 years in our league. Like, that is a very nasty flex battle, not what you want to see in your lineup in week 3, Dan.
Yeah, I feel bad. Terry's injuries are killing Terry right now. That sucks to have it go that way for him. I think Terry does win this matchup. Kenny's staring that consolation race there at the end of the season.
Just trying to get those extra luck points for the lottery.
That's what he needs. The only thing I'm looking forward to in this matchup is seeing if Dameon Pierce can get over 45% of the snaps, because I just doesn't appear that he's going to.
Yeah, you were certainly right last week, and you've turned me on. Well, not you haven't turned me on Pierce. Pierce has turned me on Pierce. I don't know what Houston's doing. I thought he was going to be a bell cow. He certainly isn't. I don't have this matchup as close. I think Terry runs away with it. He has the edge at quarterback. They're kind of close at other positions. If Quentin Johnston somehow goes off in this game, because this is the highest over under of any NFL game this week, Minnesota versus the Chargers. Kenny could surprise us. Quentin Johnston, I think, hasn't played more than 15 snaps in any game this season so far. Like, he ain't it yet. I'm not saying he's never it, but he ain't it yet. And Terry just has the better quarterback in a game that could be an insane scoring game, and it helps. Quentin Johnston can't score unless Terry's quarterback scores. So yes, I am also picking Terry in this matchup, and I think the ship is starting to sink for Kenny again. And I think it was right about this week last year where we beat Kenny into submission.
Why is Kyle Pitts so bad? Can anybody explain that?
The offense. It's not an offense catered to using a receiver at tight end. They want to run block the entire thing, I think.
The hype was so big on this guy.
So big. And then 1,000 yards is so
huge. Like, hype on a tight end is hard because it's usually 3 years before a tight end does anything.
Yes.
And I feel like the same. I was thinking back, and you guys remember Verdon Davis? For the Niners? I feel like he had the same hype. Like, he was like top 5 or top
physical
6
freak,
pick, whatever. Physical specimen, and like everybody was so hyping on him. I just feel like Kyle Pitts has got the same, like, almost like the Madden curse. You
would certainly have not thought he would have been put back into drafts, traded so many times. Like, that was not the thoughts after his rookie year.
No, it's crazy.
Going back to the chat a little bit, after I defended Jordan Love, Taylor pointed out, well, Kyren Williams is the RB2. So if I'm defending Jordan Love, we better put some respect on Kyren Williams. Lee points out that he was choosing between Kyren Williams and Josh Kelly before the week 2 games, and unfortunately he did not end up with Kyren Williams, but the number 1 waiver that week ended up with Puka Nacua, just like they did in just about every other league. And now you're going to be staring at that team and wondering what might have been if you had the number 1 waiver after week 1.
Taylor, do not argue Ryan with facts.
He's not the art. Look, Jordan Love might be the QB2 or QB3 in fantasy. Kyren Williams is 4 touchdowns. If you take those 4 touchdowns away, and I understand that's not how it works, he's still a top 20 running back, which is the respect I give him. I don't give him top 5 respect. It's not happening. All right, guys. Next up, we got Horvath and Phil, and we've talked about this every episode ever that we started doing the show. Is there worse luck in fantasy football than Steve Horvath? 0-2 this season, runs into a buzzsaw of a schedule. I don't know if you guys have looked at this. Points against: Darin 152, Metzger 186, JR 183, couple of teams at 205. You get all the way down to Horvath, who has had 303 points scored against him in 2 weeks, more than double almost what Darin had scored against him. It's not going well for my big buddy there, Steve Horvath, but easy win against Phil this week. I'm giving him the win. QB play right off the bat looking fantastic for Steve Horvath. When you got Josh Allen taking on Washington versus Deshaun Watson, who has not looked good, taking on Tennessee. Bijan Robinson looks great. You want Pacheco to play. I think that's the interesting thing. We know he's stacked at wide receiver, and he got a good game out of George Kittle at 1150. You would have hoped for more out of Fred Warner, but Foya Luakon isn't a guy who's going to drop, 30, 40 points. He's a guy who's going to get 10 consistently. And so I don't think it's going to hurt him that match losing the IDP. What do you think, Dan?
This is my absolute favorite matchup this week.
Oh,
I cannot wait to see who wins this game. You have the ultra-talented Steve team that is just covered in bad luck. And you have Phil's team, not nearly as talented, but Phil is the luckiest fantasy player I've ever seen. What's going to win out? Talent or luck? We'll see. I'm taking, obviously, Horvath to get the first win. But, man, if Phil can win, he gets lucky again.
If Phil can win, I might need to send you guys to start checking on Steve because I'm starting to get worried for my man if Phil pulls this win out. Darren, what do you think?
Horvath for sure. I mean, look at his team. You can't. I mean, you look at the team. Nine picks in the first 28. I mean, are you? And he's 0-2. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
I will say,
bad luck.
RB depth is becoming an issue for him now because now you have Cam Akers who is splitting time. You hope he maybe takes over the job in Minnesota. You have a hurt Isaiah Pacheco right now. You obviously have Bijan, who looks fantastic. But if Horvath takes an RB injury, we're talking about the exact same thing as last season. So
why would you put that out in the atmosphere for this guy? What are you? I feel like you are trying to create more bad luck for him. Like, what are you doing? What did this guy do? Did he pee in your Cheerios? Come on.
Am I cursing Steve Horvath? Is that
you
what
are.
This is all about
You are absolutely doing that to this man.
Even at this point, even at his running back depth is what we're talking about now. Yeah. Look at his receivers. There's not a better.
They kind of make up for the whole thing.
There's not a better trio in the league that at receiver, and he got 11.5 points from Kittle this week.
Yep.
I mean, that's you're glad that happens.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think Phil has too many Browns on his team.
Yeah,
he's got all of the running backs for the Browns. All of them.
Every year we have one guy with too many Browns on his team.
All of them. He's got all of the Browns except for Amari Cooper, and he's the one that matters.
It's 3 people that rotated around. It's Phil, Kenny, and Taylor.
Yep. Phil's got it this year. He
used to be
that one.
Big Dave early on. I think that was before Darren's time. He was Darin took over his team now that I think about it. So Big Dave was a big let's have too many Browns on our team guy. Next up I have my matchup 1-1.
Before we move on, I apologize. Yeah. I know you're trying to push it through, but fun fact here. So in the off season, Phil and I made a trade where I got Jalen Hurts and Kenneth Walker from Phil for a 1 and a 2. And I thought it was a pretty good deal. I got a couple of texts back from guys in the league. I can't believe you did that. Good job. He used those picks for TJ Hawkinson and Jackson Smith Najigma. So that's what he got for Jalen Hurts and Kenneth Walker. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Now, hold on.
I was going to say,
bad drafting does not mean that it was a bad trade. His mistake was then trading his first round pick for Waller and then throwing Waller back in the draft.
Don't get me started on Waller. Don't get me started. I let it go because he had already played. Let it go. Ryan started to kind of give you some shit about it last week, and I was loving it. It made me laugh, and I was really pissed that he was already going to be played by the time this thing gone. Yeah. But I can't stand Darren Waller.
I saw a post today that said Darren Waller is 6'4", 246 pounds, runs a 4.46 40. The only problem is he's not good at football.
He has legit concrete bricks for hands. They don't look like hands. They're literally cinder blocks. And so when the ball comes in, he has to catch the balls with the cinder blocks. Like, he's horrible. He's not, like, I don't know why he's still on a roster.
It's a rough season for the Giants, plain and simple. and they need Saquon back very, very quickly.
Dan loves him.
How much. Yeah.
Dan loves him.
Dan's all about his Darren Waller and his 2.5 points he got you this week.
Actually, he got me 4 points.
Okay.
Respect
That's
on
the
it.
most this season.
I mean, as of right now, I know beyond those 4 points, he's the tight end 4. So it's not like there's a bunch of tight ends out there.
Okay.
Well, we've talked about tight end position is crap, and he had one good week. Let's not pump him up.
I'm not saying that. Okay, let's hold on. The Giants team has gone against 2 of the top 3 defenses in football to start the season.
His good game was against Arizona. This argument can be made either way.
He's not going to play the 49ers and the Cowboys every week either.
He's not going to get to play Arizona every week.
In the NFC, pretty much.
I don't know. I'm going to agree with Darin here. He's awful. I got my matchup next. 1-1 me versus 1-1 Taylor. I'll let you guys go in first. Darin, I'll put you up on the first one.
Well, let me pull it up here because I got.
Yep, take your time, buddy.
So where you at here? The ninjas.
That's where you did pick Horvath to win, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Just keep in mind.
This one's easy. I mean, Kansas City's playing Chicago. I mean, there's no way he doesn't come. Mahomes doesn't come away with 3 touchdowns. There's just no way. One of them's going to Kelsey. I mean, it is the way that I look at it. You're running back. He got you 18, so that's good. It's a good start, but you expect that from him. Yeah. Tyler Lockett, Michael Pittman. I mean, they match up pretty evenly, but they match up evenly against your what you're going up against. It's pretty easy. You run away with this one.
Dan,
you're gonna run away with it too. I agree. Matchups favor you. He's starting Najee Harris, which is already just a negative for him. With 10 carries he's going to get, which I've said from the beginning of the year, was not a fan of. Kelsey's going to blow Henry out of the water. Yeah. Taylor, you've done a great job building this team from not having a draft. I think you still have a chance to make the playoffs. We'll see where I have you ranked later in the show. But this just ain't no good matchup for you, and Ryan's going to murder you.
I was going to say, I don't think the quarterback and tight end are as big as you guys are saying. I like Hunter Henry, and I like him in this matchup. I like Tua Tagovailoa, and I like him in this matchup, but they are an edge. And Christian McCaffrey jumping out to that head start. I'm also picking myself here. But again, I don't hate Taylor's team either. And Taylor has been pointing out to me for weeks now that I lost to him every single time we played each other last year. He is declaring the fact that he cannot lose.
I hope you win. I hope he beats you. So
I would agree.
Taylor.
I would agree.
We're rivals, Ryan. I hope you lose every week now. I hope you lose every week, and I hope you sit at home thinking about Puka being on my team and cry.
Dan made a good point, by the way, that he didn't take a draft pick, and he's built what he's got here. He's got a 1-1 record, and he didn't take a draft pick, so he did what he had to do so far. I'm not sure why he did. We talked about the trade earlier, but I'm not sure why he did that. But there's always something up his sleeve. Like he's always got something going on.
Yeah, so, I was gonna say, last I checked, I haven't looked at it in a while. He still has 2 1s and a 2, where if he needs to start making moves again to get things happening this season, he still has the capital to make those moves. So it's interesting. Yeah. And then I have as the final, what's that?
All that capital, and he offers me a 2 for Puka and a 4.
And then the final matchup, a 1-1 team versus an 0-2 team. The reason I put this one as the matchup is Rob P, the new Rob. I had him in the playoffs, 0-2. I feel like this is a must win for his team, and he's going up against a CB team where the matchup looks kind of close. So I have this as the closest matchup and the most important matchup of the week. It's a great matchup, not quite as close as Darin's. I'm going to give the slight edge all the way down at wide receiver. I think it's their flex plays to Zay Flowers over Kadarius Toney. And I'm mildly worried about Amon-Ra St. Brown and his toe injury. So I am going to give the win here to Rob P. I also think that Toney might not be the right play with Trevon Diggs out for Dallas. I think Hollywood Brown should work his way into Stevie's lineup. Dan?
Yeah, I agree, Steve. I don't like Toney there. Moss just sucks. I mean, Barkley being hurt kills him. I think New Rob gets the win this week as well.
Yeah, I think I also don't like Moss, and I don't like the matchup this week. I think Tyler Algier against Detroit might be a better play there as well. Stevie was the only person I went through and looked at their lineup and actually had questions about their lineup. Darren?
Yeah, I for one, it's got to be New Rob. I mean, you can't call him Rob P. Nobody knows his last name, so it's got to be New
Peterson.
Rob. I think
he's asked us to stop picking him.
Wow, so I was going to pick him. So he's telling me not to.
I think he just thinks we're jinxing his team.
Okay, I got you. I think that it's pretty evenly matched up. I think the same thing you said, Ryan. The wide receivers are going to be the determination of the outcome of this game. I think that New Rob's got AB and Adams, Flowers the hookup legit with Lamar if Lamar does what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
I think that playing against Indy, that's kind of a question mark. They played good the second week. They didn't play so hot the first week. So I got to go with New Rob on this one.
All right. So consensus, which means congratulations on your win, Stevie, because we have jinxed Rob P yet again. All right, guys, before we get out of here, we got two last things to do with the show. We are going to announce our 6 playoff teams, and then we are going to pick our little game for the flex position wide receiver just for a little bit of fun. Dan, you won again last week. So, Dan, I'll let you get us started. This is the first week. Who are your 6 current playoff teams?
We doing in order or just our 6?
Whatever works for you, buddy.
I'll just name my 6 in no particular order except for number 1, Darin. Darin, you're number 1 on the standings. Number 1 in my heart. Your team's rocking. You're doing a great job. Then my other 5, JR, Ryan, myself, Horvath, and Terry.
Well, in the most boring news ever, Dan, we have the same 6 teams in the playoffs. So, Dan, of 6, is Terry still your champion?
As of this moment, I'm going to say he's still my champion, but I need to see what his running back situation looks like come later in the season. I'm nervous about it now because, like I said, injuries are killing Terry right now, and that's just bad luck that can easily keep on rolling. Ask Horvath. Yeah. So I'm nervous for him. I'm nervous. I'm not ready to take him off there, but I can tell you that there's a certain guy on this show that's creeping up with him.
Yeah. Definitely quite interesting. And then Darin, as Dan mentioned, or as I mentioned, we have the exact same 6 playoff teams, me and Dan. You, Metzger, JR, myself, Horvath, Terry. Do you have any differences there?
So boring. Like, we could have done this anyway.
And we did not
have exactly the same 6. And I have the slight edge going to Terry. Only because of his running backs.
Yeah, Eckler
the
and
same
Henry
reason why
scary.
he has a matchup win this week is because of his running backs. But are they going to last? I mean, we've obviously seen Eckler's down again. So I don't know. I feel like there's a slight edge there at the top of the list. But just like Dan said, somebody on this show is moving up the list. Not going to say who.
I will throw out one quick thing. Yeah, it's you, obviously. Couple of quick things. Rob, Motts, and Taylor both have key players on their IR right now who could come back as early as week 5. And I think if they can get one more win between now and week 5, it makes their teams much more interesting with Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp coming back. But the thing I found most interesting, I don't think I dug enough into his team. His depth is terrible. But Greg's starting lineup is a very, very nice team to not be a playoff team. Brock Purdy, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Deebo Samuel, Chris Godwin, Evan Ingram, Jordan Addison. Like, that's a hell of a starting lineup to where I think he could make some noise if the schedule falls his way. And we know I don't look at the schedule until the week happens.
He was the team I had the hardest leaving out. And especially because I think Addison's going to continue to get better and better as the season goes on. So...
Yeah, I think that's fair. All
There's
right.
no depth though. There's no
Depth. 100%. Yep. And that's
one
exactly what my
injury,
gut
which
said.
is kind of the same with most of our teams. One injury and he's gone.
I want to throw out Taylor just said he's glad we're always wrong.
Yes.
All right, guys. As always, we end the show with I want your best quarterback and your best flex play, running back, wide receiver, tight end, whoever you want to pick there. Me, Dan, and Darin will throw our picks out there. Last week, it was just me, Horvath, and Dan. Dan scored 35 points with the pick of, I erased your picks. I don't remember who the picks are anymore, but Dan scored 35 points. I don't think me and Horvath had more than 21. Horvath had 24. I had 29. So I was just wrong about everything. Regardless, Dan has won both weeks. If you're in the chat right now and you want to participate, give us a quarterback, give us a flex play. Dan, you're the champion. Make your picks.
I'm the champion. I'm going last.
Okay. Darin, make your picks.
I'm going to go with two guys on my team, Jalen Hurts and Tyreek Hill.
I think that is a great pick. Well, since Dan's going to let me go first, I was actually doing the same exact thing this week, Darin. I'm taking my guys, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
Wow. Shouldn't have let you guys go. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to take Josh Allen and CeeDee Lamb.
Ooh, CeeDee Lamb's a bold one. All right. So, guys, that's the game. You can pick the same guys as us. I would imagine you want to change it up a little bit. It's going to be kind of boring if you make the same exact picks as us. Drop them in the chat. Taylor says Tua and Kyron Williams.
I hope he is so right. I've never wanted
to do
something
Justin
so
Fields. That should be his pick. Is Justin Fields and Kyron Williams?
It's not week 5 yet. They're not making the changes yet.
And then Drifter got his picks in there. That is, who does he have? Hurts and Stephon Diggs. Those are good picks too. So,
does anybody know where Drifter's from?
Yeah, Drifter, we've talked about this before. As I get ready to do our outros, drop it in the chat. I know you're not in our time zone. I believe you're in Europe. I might be wrong about that, but I know you're not in our time zone. Where are you, Drifter? While he gets that in the chat, Dan, any parting words for our friends?
I love you guys. Have a great fantasy week. Puka. I'm gonna get you a Puka jersey, Ryan. How's that sound? Send that over to you.
I don't wear jerseys anymore, but I would not be upset about a Puka Nacua jersey. Donovan calls him Pukachu because of how much I was talking about him during the summer. So.
Love it.
Okay, here we go. He's an Aussie, East Coast, Australia.
So he's got a cool ass accent, is what you're saying.
Yep. And then Taylor's ready to co-manage. Taylor's ready to bring him in. We might have to get this figured out. Darin, any parting words for our friends? Wonderful having you on, Darin. You did great, buddy.
I like to talk, so I've always been a salesman. So I just talk and I mean fantasy football. I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all been doing this for 20 something years of our lives. In this is about the highlight of what I've got to do in my fantasy life. So
that's awesome.
Tyreek Williams or Tyreek, I keep calling Williams. Yeah. Tyreek Hill, 116 yards the rest of the season, every game to get 2,000 yards.
Certainly sounds doable.
Very doable. Very doable. That's all I got. Go Fins.
All right. My parting words, as always. I like you guys, except Taylor this week. I know your dad died this summer. So did mine. And your fantasy team's going to die this week, buddy. Fuck you. 0-3 turns to 1-0. Have a good night, everybody.